Hello friends, it's Shelley from Koala Knits and Knacks. In this tutorial, I am actually redoing an old video. Well, old meaning the one that I did when I first started my channel about 3 years ago. I did a bear beanie and I had a few mistakes on that tutorial and thought, I need to really redo that, revise it and make it better. So that's what I am doing in this tutorial. We are going to use I'm going to use my 40 needle Sentro for this, but you can use your 46 needle Addi or even your 48 needle Sentro will work for this project. If you're using your 48 needle Sentro, I think I mentioned it later on in the video as well, just use a little extra tension to make the circumference a bit snugger and it will work beautifully for you. All right, and I will put the yarn particulars down in the description box below, so please always have a look down there. So once we have our yarn and you have your machine set up, we're going to get started on this very, very cute infant bear beanie. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial, friends. Don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't done so already. And I just want to say thank you for being a part of my channel community. You guys are the best and I really appreciate you. My 40 needle Sentro set up, but you can use your 46 needle Addi or your 48 needle Sentro, whichever machine that you prefer to use for your beanies. I have made most of my infant baby beanies on my 46 needle Addi, but I do actually love the size of the circumference of the head that the 40 needle gives me, so I'm going to use that one for this particular infant beanie. You can only use this for infants and babies and very small toddler beanies. Otherwise, you have to use a bigger machine for the circumference, but we're going to go ahead and make this infant beanie using our Bernat premium tweeds in the color Aran Tweed, I think it's called. Aran Tweed, yep. And we're going to bring our last white and our first black needle in line with our yarn guide. Now, I don't know what these numbers say. There's numbers on each of these needles and I don't pay attention to that. I take my black one and I use that as my first needle, and I take a black permanent marker and I mark that divider between the last white and the first black, so I can always see when the end of my row is coming around. All right, so we're going to take that yarn, we're going to do a drawstring cast on, going in front of that first black, behind, in front, behind, all the way around, just letting that slip through your fingers so that you don't want it too tight, so you don't put any extra tension on it. And if it's a looser cast on like this, where it just slides through your fingers, the next row will be easier to knit. All right, so it should be behind that last white, into the yarn feeder it goes. I'm going to go ahead and set my row counter to 0. I will have that linked in the description box below for you. It's just a wonderful counter. I absolutely love it. I glued mine on with the glue that it comes with, but if you order these, use a Velcro strip, and a double-sided Velcro strip, and put it on the underside of this counter and then on your machine here. And you can probably do the same thing with your magnet. That way you can remove them and use them on another machine if you like. These are stuck on there. However, if I took a blow dryer and blow dried it, I could get it off, but I just bought for my other machine, so not a big deal. But anyways, just a little bunny trail, little tip for you there. But I'm going to hold my yarn between my two fingers because I get better control that way and I can keep the tension even. Sometimes I use the tensioners that are on the machines, but not too often. I'm going to do the first row slowly, like what I just did. Make sure that there is slack coming out of your skein, and we're going to just keep going. This is row 2. You want to find the speed and the tension that your yarn and your machine like together so that these loops go down over those pink teeth without any trouble. Sometimes they like to split between the teeth and sometimes they don't like to go down over those two pink teeth and you'll get a tucked stitch. So you want to find the tension and the speed that works well so that that doesn't happen. Also make sure that goes down into that very nook of the needle. And friends, you're going to continue knitting until you have 60 rows. Again, this is for my newborn to 3-month beanie, so I'm only doing 60 rows. I have a tutorial on my channel. You can look on the beanie playlist and scroll down through the beanie videos that I have, and you'll find a video that tells you all the row counts for the different sizes of beanies that you want to make, whether you're making a brimmed beanie or a, what I call, or they call bonfire beanie, whoever they are, bonfire beanie that does not have a fold-up brim. I give you row counts for both styles in every size. So that's a very helpful video you might want to find. This is a brand new ball, so it's kind of tight coming out of there, which is why I like to hold things in my fingers. I can feel it. All right, I'm going to keep knitting till I have 60 rows. And when I have 60 rows, I'll meet you back. Let me just add before I go off. You could use your 46 needle Addi for this project. You could also use your 48 needle Sentro. The majority of baby beanies that I have made in the past, I have used my 46 needle Addi. And it's perfect. It works well too. If you're using your Sentro, put a little bit of extra tension on it so that your circumference is a little bit tighter, and it will be totally fine. But if you have your 40 needle and you're making a premium, or pardon me, a newborn beanie or a baby beanie, it's just the perfect circumference. So you'll want to grab that one. All right, I'm going to keep going till I have 60 rows. Just clicked on row 60. I'm going to watch for that black divider to come around, and there it is. Line that up in front of my yarn guide. Then I'm going to take a piece of yarn, a yarn tail that goes around my barrel 1.5 times, and we're going to cut that. Take it out of the yarn feeder and make sure it's between the last white and the first black, because we still have to finish knitting those two, and we are going to cast off. For this cast off, I'm going to hold that with a little bit of tension. I'm going to crank my handle, and I'm going to turn it almost one full rotation until that black divider gets close to the feeder here. But you see these needles are starting to pop up. You don't want to get to the place where this one pops up before you pick off that loop, because it'll fall. So go about there. So 1, 2, 3 needles after it are still, or before it, are still down. And then we're going to thread our needle. Now all of these stitches are ready to come off. I'm going to take that one off, pull through, pull sideways. Don't pull up, because if you pull up without holding this loop, you're going to pull that one off the needles and drop your row. So I'm going to pull out sideways. You can also put your finger. Let's turn that, because now the counter is in the way. You can put your finger over the next one, just like that, if that will help you. And then remove them one at a time. Put your finger over it while you pull through, and then continue removing your loops until all of your stitches are removed from your machine. Oops, there we go, just like that. And crank my handle. Put my finger over. We are almost at the end. I can get them all. There we go. I have my piece removed from my machine. There it is. I'm going to remove this out of the way, and then we will assemble our little beanie. Once you have your beanie off the machine, you have to stretch it. So we're going to stretch it widthwise all the way down, and then we're going to stretch it lengthwise. That just softens up your stitches and gives it a little bit more length and a little bit more width, and just makes it look a lot nicer. All right, take one side, doesn't matter which side, and you're going to smooth out the end as you cinch it closed. So smoothing it out, cinching it closed. I'm going to cut this a little bit shorter now that I've got some excess. Take my needle, and we're going to go around it, and we're going to reinforce the top. Just go around once in that top row of stitches to give it a little extra strength. and also to be able to close it completely tight. By going around once, you can get the center completely closed pretty easily. And underneath. And a little bit more. There we go. I'm going to pull that tight. I'm going to then just grab 2 little strands there, tie it off in a knot, pull that knot down with my thumbnail, take that needle and put it right through the center, grabbing it with your hand on the inside so it doesn't snag the inside of your beanie. And then you're going to pinch the end and you're going to pull it in half. Then you're going to take this, and when you give that a little yank, you get your knot to the inside. All right, now you're going to take it and you're going to do the exact same thing with the other side. Smoothing it out. It's amazing how soft this yarn feels after you stretch it out. When you first take it off the machine, it doesn't feel quite so soft, but once you give it a little stretch, it's glorious. All right, it's going to be nice and soft on your little baby's head, or whoever you gift it to. Or you might be selling them in a craft sale. These beanies will sell very, very well. I've sold so many of them. I don't sell anymore. I concentrate on my channel, and so I don't sell for commission anymore. I used to, and I would sell tons of these, but I just don't have time to. I get asked all the time to make things for people on commission, but honestly, I just don't have the time. I wish I did, but I don't. A YouTube channel keeps me very, very busy. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take those 2 strands, I'm going to tie 1 knot, pull that knot down with my thumb. Then I'm going to take this inside one, pull it up as close to the outside of the layer as I can, and tie a firm knot. Taking those 2 strands, it's easier if they're the same length when you thread them on your needle. We're going to thread them in between the 2 strands, or the 2 layers that we have there, pull it through and cut it off, and then your tails are hidden on the inside. And you have this adorable, adorable little infant beanie. All right, friends, let's grab your 22 needle machine and let's make the face and the ears. All right. Friends, it's time to make the ears and the nose. I am using a solid color. Now, I didn't have a label on this cake, but I'm pretty sure it's Bernat Premium in dark taupe. I will look it up and it'll be labeled down in the description box below. So always check the description box below the video for information that you might need. But we're going to take that yarn. We're going to bring our last white and our first black needle in line with our yarn feeder. And we're going to do the drawstring cast on once again. So in front and behind, in front and behind, letting that yarn slip through your fingers. Now, more so with the 22 needle machine than any other machine, you have to cast on loosely. Before I get to the end, I'm going to set my row counter to 0. And the reason being for a looser cast on is because sometimes, a lot of times actually, on the first row, this yarn likes to split between these 2 red teeth here. And then you have to take your loom pick or your needle as it comes around and you notice it, and pick it up and bring the loop over both needles. And sometimes it can be a bit of a pain, but if you cast on loosely like what I just did, and then the second step is you go very slowly on your first round, looking to see that that loop has gone over both teeth. And if you go slowly, it generally does, because it has time to get down there. There's no weight pulling it down, so you need to go slow. And if you go extra slow on the first round, then you generally have no problem for the rest of the project. You're going to knit 2 ears and 1 nose, going for 10 rows. There we go. I'm watching for that black divider to come around. I'll pop that in front of my yarn feeder, just like that. I'm going to cut off a tail that's long enough to go around that barrel 1.5 times. Open my latch. Make sure you shut it, or when you turn your handle, you're going to risk breaking a needle or breaking the top of the latch, okay? We're going to do the same thing we did for our beanie. giving it almost a full turn. Don't go far enough that your needle starts to pop up and pops that off before you get a chance to take off the loop, and you will be fine. Generally, as a rule, don't go past this screw with your first needle or any needle that still has a loop, and then you won't risk dropping a row. So friends, for the ears, you're gonna make 2, but then you need a piece for the nose, and you're gonna do exactly the same thing. All right, so go ahead and make 3 of these circles, casting on with the drawstring cast on, knitting 10 rows, cast off with the drawstring cast off. Make 3. And there we go. We have our 3 pieces off the machine. We're going to stretch them. Doesn't matter how small your pieces are, you always have to stretch them when you take them off the machine. All right, let's just take one for now, because we're going to do the same thing to all 3. We're going to take an end, and we're going to cinch it closed. If you just pull it, it's all messy like that. Friends, you have to take the time to smooth it out and pay attention to those details. Get it nice and smooth. You do not have to reinforce any of these ones, because those little circles on the ears these are gonna be covered. We're not gonna see them by the way we fold our ear, and then it's going to be sewn over with embellishment for the nose. All right, so I just went just a little bit so I could get it completely closed, and then I'm going to tie a knot. Push that down with my thumb. I'm gonna go into that center, pull that through, and you're gonna do the same thing. Lots of repetition on this particular video. And we're going to get that tail out of the way. I'm gonna just pick up just a couple just so that I can tighten it better. Just like that, pull it tight. Take these 2 and tie in a firm knot. There we go, so now you have like a pancake. Cut this one off, cut the shorter one of the 2 off, just like that. This is the ear that I'm working on. For the nose, we're gonna just leave it like that. So that'll be the nose. You can do one just like that for the nose, and for the 2 ears, you're gonna get it to this place. Then you're gonna take your tail and you're gonna bring it up to the side. So go in between the 2 layers, bring this right up to the side of your piece. Tie a knot just so that when you pull on it, it doesn't, having that knot there, now if I pull on it, I'm not gonna gather it in there. Then you're gonna just fold it in half, just like so. And you're going to pick up 1 strand or 2, doesn't matter, either works. And you're going to sew it around the half circle. I like to pick up just 1 strand for these little ears. When I make my cuddle bears, I think I pick up 2, doesn't matter. You do whatever makes your little heart happy, but I think 1 is enough. And I'm gonna go all the way around. So I'm making it tight enough so that the 2 sides are nice and snug together, but I'm not pulling so tight that I get any gathering. I have just a beautiful, beautiful tension as I seam. All right, I'll see you when you get to the other side. Once you get it to the other end, you're gonna just make 1 little knot, just like that. And you're gonna do that to your 2nd ear. And there they are. And we're gonna take our little beanie. Now check your beanie, make sure that if you have a flaw anywhere on your hat, make sure that goes to the back that you missed, or you can even turn it the other way and get whichever side is the most perfect, and use that as your front. Oh, see, I have a little tension issue there. I must have stopped and talked to you. And then when I started again, that's what happened. So I'm gonna put that on the inside. Always best to maintain the same speed and the same tension for your whole project. It's when you stop and you start and you stop and you start that you get little lines like that sometimes in your work. So there we go. I'm going to just do that. I'm going to take this little ear and we're going to place it onto our head. And we're going to, the first one doesn't really matter because it's a circle, right? So you're going to, here's the center. We're going to go down about 1, 2, 3 stitches maybe. And we're going to go straight in, and I go through both layers just for the first stitch. It's the second one that we'll have to measure and make sure it's straight across. But I'm going to go right across and right through just for that first stitch. Come back up. And then I'm only going to go through one layer from this point on. Sometimes if you can pick up both layers just to give it a little extra secure attachments, then that's great. But sometimes it's a little hard to hold, especially when you're trying to do it in the camera here. So I'm going to pick up along the bottom edge of my ear. Then I'm going to pick up into the beanie, just like that. I've got like 3 strands in there just so that I can have a little extra strength. Here, 2 or 3 strands, you're just going to pick up at the bottom. You're going to pull tight, then you're going to go onto the hat and you're going to do the same thing. You're going to follow the same row down as much as possible. And then pick up underneath the ear and pull. And you're going to sew that down. When you get to the center here, you want to make sure that you grab underneath this centerpiece. Go straight underneath it and secure that right to your hat. Don't go on just on the side here and then skip over it and go here. You have to get right underneath that center point for it to look flat, okay? And that's how you're going to sew it onto your piece. I'm going to continue down. Now I'm going to pick up both layers just in a few spots. And especially if you're using this flecky yarn, you don't, even if you see the stitch on the other side, it really doesn't matter. And they're not reversible beanies, so if you feel more secure going through both layers all the way down, then you do that. It does not hurt. As a matter of fact, I'm going to do it, and then I'll show you what it looks like when we're done, so you can see that it doesn't look bad. And see, now I'm at the center here. I'm going to go right across the center circle, and I'm going to pull. And I'm going to finish going all the way down to the tip here. And when I get to the tip, I'll meet you back because I don't tie off until I get the second ear on. Oh, these 2 colors are gorgeous together. But you can see, here's the center. I started the 3rd stitch down. So it's about maybe a 1/2 inch down. All right, so I'm going to keep going in, pulling it through, and I'm going to get down to the other corner. I keep having to turn this to do it, so I'm sure that's frustrating in the camera. So I'm going to go off and I'll do a couple more stitches and I'll meet you right back. All right, so when you get to the end, I don't like to have a little gap in here like this. I like to have it rounded off very nicely. So I'm going to go up the side of my ear. Just a very little ways. Put that through. Then I'm going to go back into the space where I was before. So instead of coming down further, I go back into where I just came out of. And I'm going to go up into the center. Just like that. And then when I pull it through, watch what it does there. It just rounds it off and it makes it look like it's actually a part of the head and not just sewn on. All right. So there we have the first one. You're going to just drop that yarn tail because you always want to make sure that your 2 pieces are even before you go and knot it off. Because if I knot that off and then I hide my ends and then I put the second ear on and I realize, oh, I got to move 1 or 2 of them down or back or up or whatever, then I can do that very easily. I'm going to sew that other one on exactly the same way, right across. Okay, friends, once you have them both on and they look even where you want them to be, then you can go ahead and tie off your tails. Now you'll notice that they are a little bit closer to the front when you look at them this way, there's a little bit less space there than there is in the back. And that's perfect. Might not have turned out that way for you, but that's how it turned out here. I was trying to get them perfectly even, but this is how it turned out, and I think it's perfect. So whichever way yours are, just make sure that they look like they are in their right place before you go ahead and knot off your tail and hide it into the layers of your ear. Cut it off. And I'm going to knot this one off. 1 and 2 into the ear. Give it a tug to get the knot in there. Cut it off. And we have the most darling little bear beanie started. Now we're going to take that other one, and I stretched it and I sewed it just the same way we had done the ears. Now I'm going to take this tail and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to bring it out to the side, making sure I secure it with the knot, just like that. Then you're going to take this, make sure it's at the top, because then it's going to be covered with the black when we add the black. You're going to center that on, just like that, making sure you leave a little brim here. You want this to be a little bit higher, not way up there. Okay, that looks goofy, but just make it, eyeball it so that that's the face, that you've got a fake brim that's going to be underneath the nose, and you have that sitting just like that. I've got, I'll just be exact, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then around the corner is seven rows underneath the rim of this. And then we're going to go right up to the side and catch the edge. Right close. Don't go up high here because we don't want to see lines. We want to have it hidden. We just want to get underneath, right close to the rim there, to the edge, and we're going to sew it on, making sure that we assess the situation every once in a while to make sure it's actually straight. There we go. And so these bent needles work great for this project, and those will be linked down in the description box below. As a member of the Amazon Affiliates program, you can help support my channel by clicking on one of my links before making your Amazon order, and that will help me. So thank you so much for doing that. I'm going to continue sewing all the way around this beautiful little nose. See, you don't see any sew lines here. It's right close. And I'm going through both layers, which I promised you I'd show you for the ears, so let's just do that next. I went through both layers, and you don't even see it because it gets hidden in the little seams. Like, it's in there. I went through both. I promise you I did. And so go through both layers, and you'll get that little extra security in the strength of your beanie, of your ears being on there, okay? So I'm going to continue around. I think I went to, well, maybe not. I was going to say I went a little bit too low. I kind of let it fall. No, it's still good. You're listening to me talk out loud to myself, basically, because I I want to make sure that it is in the right place. And so I look at it, I assess it. If I have to take it out, I take it out. If I don't, then it's a bonus. There we go. I'm going to continue all the way around until I have my beautiful little nose sewn on. Then you're going to grab yourself some black yarn and your needle, and we're going to finish the facial features. All right, friends? Once we have the nose positioned where we want it and it looks good, we're going to make a knot. Hide our tail. This yarn is gorgeous. And we're going to grab a very long black strand. Very long, meaning a couple feet, because better long than too short and to run out. This is probably a little bit longer than 2 feet, but we're going to go in the side of the head, and we're going to come, here's the center of our nose, we're going to come up about a stitch. So I'm going to go in, come up about a stitch, and I usually work my way down to the center. By the time I'm done, pull through. Yeah, I've gone way too much. I'm going to cut a little bit off. And then we're going to go up and across and make a straight line here. We're gonna essentially make a triangle. So I'm just getting the outline of that, and then back down here, and you'll see I have a triangle there. Now, when you're doing this black part, don't make it so huge that you're covering half of this circle with your nose. I see that done a lot, and if, okay, like let me just retract a little bit what I'm gonna say. If you like it that way, go for it. But I think it kind of takes away from the features of the face. I think you want it to be a little bit more subtle, not quite so huge. So it's going to be a little bit bigger than my outline here because I outline it again at the end when I'm done. A bent needle might not be the best for this, so I'm going to change this to my metal wool needle that's straight. But you don't want to have a big, fat, wide black piece on your nose that stands out above all the rest of the features of the beanie. All right, so we're gonna try to keep it a little bit more subtle now. I started my point here, we will end there. As I fill in, I go down a little bit just because it starts to square off. So I'm coming up right at the edge there, and I'm pulling through. Then I'm bringing it straight down. I don't want this crossing over, like going in different angles and stuff. Try to keep it as straight and uniform as you can. Go back up. Pull through. Use your thumb to guide it so that it goes right next to this next one, not overlapping it. And then fill in this little triangle, and then we're going to outline it when we get it done at the end. And I'll show you that when I get there, but I'm going to keep going, and I'm going to move every strand that I do. I'm going to move this down, maybe every second strand. I'm going to move my point down just a little bit. The goal is to get it into the center of your nose, into that center space right here. Okay. So I'm going to keep going, coming across. And then down. And down. I'm gonna go a little bit lower here. I can already see it squaring off. I'm gonna come up into this little space here. You don't have to start on this end and go right around like this and then come back. You just want to fill in the empty spaces and make your lines straight, if that makes sense. Back down. Let's go over to this side. Just back and forth until you have your triangle filled in. See, there's my spot. I'm almost in there. So I'm not going to go lower than that circle. Now I'm going to go right into the circle. And I'm just going to keep filling in until I have all my spaces. All the brown spaces covered. And I'm almost there. Back into that center. Up to here, I have a little space. Guide that with my fingers. And one more. You can see that I haven't doubled up my strands. I try to keep them fairly, you know, single layered. I don't like to have 2 and 3 strands on top of each other. So I try to just keep it one single layer. But then when you get it where you think it's almost filled in, you got to look for those little gaps that you missed and then put an extra one there. So I'm going to go there. See this little gap here? I don't like that. So I'm going to go back into the center. If I had this close to my body on my lap, I wouldn't be looking like I'm struggling. But I'm trying to keep it in the camera. And there we go. So it's grown substantially since I started, but you can see that the edge here is a little bit wonky. So I always go back when I finish filling in the inside, I go right to the outside here, very edge, and I outline that one last time. So I'm going to intentionally go there. Then I'm going to come up to this side on the very edge. Let me get my, there we go. So I'm going to outline that. Then I'm going to outline this one. And I see that there's another little space there. So unless I can move that over, which I can, I'm going to pop that down into the center again, because then now I've outlined this side. I'm going to go into the center and I'm going to come straight down. Not to the edge, but about a stitch above it. Come straight down. Now I've outlined that edge. Go back up into the point and go straight up to outline the eyes. Now I like the eyes to be really close to the edge of the piece, so I'm going to guess that the first eye is going to go about there. I'm in between the two layers, so this strand is not in between the two layers as in these two layers with this eye, so I'm not going right through both layers. So I've got my mouth there. No, I want to come down just a little bit, so I can just easily do that by going into that stitch and coming down to there. So I want my eye to go up about like that. So I'm in the center of this stitch down here, and I'm going to go over 1.5 rows, and so I'm going over 1.5 rows and up 2 stitches. Then I'm going to try to mimic that on the other side. So if I go straight over to here, I think, pull it through, and then 1.5 rows would take me down to about there. And then I'm sticking in between the two layers. I'm not going right through, so you just have to kind of play with it to get it through both layers. Coming out the same spot, I want to see if that looks nice. You can always take it back. It's very easy to do. I think that's perfect. Got it on the first try, which is rare. There you go. I'm going to pull this just a little bit tighter. Pull this one. That one a little tighter. That one a little tighter. Adorable. So I'm going to go ahead. Be careful that you don't pull on this anymore. For your first tie, you're just going to tie it lightly. Don't pull too tight or you'll pull on your, you'll change the shape of your eyes. Pull that one really tight. Then put this back on your needle. Just like that. Oops. It's easier when they're both the same length. Pop it into that same space in between the two layers. Pull it through. Pull up on that area where the knot was and cut this off. Pull up on this area too to hide that. And friends, we've got this adorable little beanie. Isn't it just so sweet? I wish I had a little head to put this on. Here are just a couple pictures that I took outside just because the lighting is much better. And yeah, I hope you have enjoyed this tutorial. Thanks so much for joining me and for being a part of my channel community. I really, really love and appreciate all of you. All right, take care, have a blessed day, and I'll see you in the next tutorial. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't done so already. All right, take care.